Greetings, everyone. Happy Friday. Today is July the 16th, 2021. My name is Kimberlie Wright. Thank you for joining and welcome to Hand-Built Pottery. All right, today we're finishing up our the building for the clay pieces for our clay 3-dimensional pieces on canvas. And today I said I was gonna even paint one of the canvases. We have 4 pieces that we're doing. So this particular demo will continue until we are finished with those canvas pieces. So right now I'm at the step of completing this seahorse with the tube worms. And for that piece, I'm going to use an 11 by, let's see what the measurement is on here, sorry. (11 by 14). This is an 11 by 14 canvas, size canvas. Doesn't have to be that large, but however, depending on what you want the content in your piece, you can use a smaller or larger canvas. All right, so this is the canvas that I'm going to be painting, and it doesn't have actually, I'm going to go ahead and complete this one, but remember the ones I said it would be better to do them on the flat boards, because over time you may get some stretching from the piece being on top of there. However, I'm going to go ahead and paint this piece, but the next time I will have the canvas that's on the board rather than the stretched canvas. All right, so this is how this piece looks as it pertains to what I have already cut out for the clay and everything. And so I'm going to make a few pieces to make it 3-dimensional. And then I'll go into the painting aspect of it. All right, so from there with the tube worms, let's get the picture so you all can see that. I combined some images from different pictures, but this is the image that I'm actually making with 2 seahorses, and I'm not using those creatures right here, but I am using the tube worms. And it says the seahorse is a strange small fish that is well known from aquariums. It looks like a little horse. It is also unusual in that the male incubates the female eggs in the pouch. It is wrapped around a gorgonian. All right. And so the spiral gilled tube worms that I'm about to create, the bottom is an annelid. Tube worms are confined to their tubes, cement-like structures anchored to the ocean floor. They filter food from their surroundings. And this particular information came from the Caribbean. So right now, I'm going to cut this foil that I've already just pre-rolled. I'm going to roll it out a little bit more even for my tube worms. I also cut from a different piece of cut from a different picture 2 shells. Oh, sorry, they're not even shells, they are actual snails. Snails inside shells. So I wanted to add that to the bottom of the seafloor of my canvas 3-dimensional painting. All right, so I'm just gonna roll this. Coil evenly about the thickness that's on the paper, or the actual image that I had. And I'm just going to start to piece it how it needs to be here. So even though, as you can see, this is probably where I want it to lie, however, it's not coming as long as it needs to. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make those pieces. I'm gonna add a piece here. And I'm cutting out the edges how they need to be cut. I think I'm gonna stay inward just a little bit for my framing, about 1/2 inch. And so I'm just gonna continue that. Should be a rounded edge here. So I'm just gonna cut the edge straight from where I need to round it. And that piece crosses with another piece. So I'm actually gonna do the cutting here. And continue along here with the rest of the tube worm. And remember, I said I was gonna leave about 1.5 inches inward for my framing. All right, so I'm just adding that back. Also, once again, I have to round the edge out because the top of the tube worm here is rounded out. And I can smooth it and fix it a little better later. Right now, I'm just actually measuring out my pieces. Cutting about 1/2 inch inward on my canvas. And the tube worm that is above the seahorse is a little bit thinner. So I'm just gonna roll the clay out just a bit. And cut the pieces there. And here. So that one's gonna stop right there. And from there, I'm just gonna slide that to the side and get another piece of the coil to finish up. And this one has a really different kind of shape. It's kind of thick at the bottom, skinny in the center. And so what I'm gonna do is just roll it a little bit more thinner in my center there. And then place that piece there. All right, I'm cutting about a 1/2 inch inward on my board. And I'm cutting the top of the tube worm. Well, I don't think I meant to do that. So I'm gonna put that back together. All right. So I like how that looks, except for I need to take this part out where the tail of the seahorse is wrapping around the actual tube worm. And also, this particular seahorse is behind this tube worm. So I'm gonna leave that just like so. And what I'm going to do is fuse all that together and until it looks like it's all smooth and rounded. However, before I start to fuse it together, I have to move it off of this board and put it on a piece of newspaper. And so I'm going to transfer that now before we go into our painting. I also want you to know that I have cut out some other figures of the, wait, let me put these pieces right so I don't get confused as to where they go. That went right there. Yep. All right. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. And now I just want to pick this up gently and transfer it to newspaper. And I think I'm going to need a larger board. Because the tube worms are a little bit long. So I'm actually getting another bat, but it's really a Lazy Susan. Place a piece on top of there. And I'm just gonna, before I get absent-minded, I'm just gonna go ahead and place those pieces back on top where they go. That went right there, right here, right there. All right, so I have all my tube worms, and I just wanted to show you that I do have the 3-dimensional pieces for my seahorses here and my shells. And so once I really fuse those in, I'm going to add the seahorses and wrap the tail around there, make it more 3-dimensional. And so just to save time in the class, if I get a chance to move back on that, I will. We're going to move forward. I just wanted to show you a little bit of the construction portion to that piece. And let me move all of this out of the way. And I will show you what I've done to the skull so far. So you can see I made flowers. And even though I've added these 3-dimensional teeth, I'm going to cut them individually and put them on there. And I'm going to dig the eyes and the nose holes out to make them look a little concave. And those are the 2 flowers that sit on the side. And so just to piggyback on that piece, this is the image for that. So I'll be finishing that up. And right now, I'm gonna go ahead and start to paint the background for the seahorse picture. So just give me one couple of seconds to wash my hands. Just kind of tidy up a bit. If any of you are interested, today for lunch, we are having baked spaghetti with meat sauce, and we are having fish. I don't know what kind of fish it is as of yet, so sorry about that. All right. So for our canvas piece, I'm just going to put down a piece of newspaper. And it's really simple. Remember, I said that for me, my canvas backgrounds will be very simple and basic, abstract. You can go paint your pieces as detailed as you like. So this is the canvas that didn't have the plastic on it. The reason I had the plastic on the one with the clay is so to protect it. However, you know, we was painting vertically on that piece. And just gonna get something to lean that up against. All right. So I'm gonna put this in plastic because I don't want to get paint on it. Even though I'm using it as a prop. All right. So when you are, even though I've suggested to you to use the canvas that's on the board, if you decide to use the stretch canvas, always remember that it's really good to paint the sides as well in case you don't get it framed. However, today I'm going to use violet, phthalo blue, primary blue, ultramarine blue. I'm going to be using white in between pretty much mostly all of these colors, brown, which is burnt umber, and I'm going to be using burnt sienna. So the first thing I want to do is take my white, shake it up, and make a couple of dots or so going in a, like a smiley face, I would say. And then I'm going to take the lightest blue I have, which is primary blue. I'm going to just make a few dots going in a U shape or smile shape, or a nice thin string, like so. You can keep those open. I'm taking the medium blue, whichever is the next color. And I am doing the same thing in sort of like a U shape. Then I'm going to take the phthalo blue, which is the darkest, because I want to create light in the top of the surface of the water and going down deeper. So I'm going to have that dark blue next, the darkest blue, in like a U shape or a smile. And then after that, I want to have light brown, which is the burnt sienna that I have, but that's going to go like in a straight line across the bottom like so. And then I'm going to have the burnt umber, which is the darkest brown, below that, also in a straight line like so. And so then after that, I just want to take my white, not too much, but in between those areas, put a couple of white droplets. I'm doing about 4, kind of making it even. I'm also going in between the brown as well. White line there. All right, so I want to have a few brushes. Right now I have about 4. If you only have flat brushes. If you only have one, that's fine. The only thing you're going to have to do is clean it and dry it between colors. And so just for the sake of the time in class and the demonstration, I wanted to have several brushes so I can keep moving. And also, I didn't plan on it, but I'm going to use this toothbrush just to see how the texture works with the level that I'm trying to create, which is my sand. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to go across with the darkest color and just start to brush back and forth. And I want to get that color, go ahead and get that color on the edges and the sides. of the canvas. So I just want a little part of that earth to be dark. And that's why I started with that first, so I can go ahead and lighten it up. Now I'm going to use the brush to make the texture lines that I would like. Now I'm going to go ahead and also start with my next brown color. All right, so I'm going on the sides with that color as well. To go ahead and already have my piece painted. So this toothbrush is really muddled up, and I'm just gonna go ahead and grab another toothbrush. Just gonna sit this to the side, and I'm going to kind of make some wave lines with this piece here. Or humps. Maybe I'll call them humps. Okay, I'm just blotting that off. Going back to my dark brown. All right, just work on it as much as you need to get the consistency or whatever you're actually looking for. All right, so from there, I'm just gonna move on. I'm gonna go to my very top and just start to blend in my white. And I'm gonna do that with my largest brush that I have, because the top of the water and surface is where most of the light is hitting the ocean. So I'm just gonna start to brush that back and forth, but get a little bit of the blue, and also paint in that shape as well. All right, I'm going between two brushes. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and paint on the side somewhat. I know I probably was in the way a little bit. So I'm gonna come back to the white at the top. Once I blend these other colors, I'm continuing to go down. All right, so as you can see, I have a lot of paint on a couple of these brushes. I'm going to go ahead and use this and paint the sides. And now I'm going to actually clean my brushes and dry them off. And I'm using acrylic paints. And so even though I've done most of my painting, I just want to blend that out to smooth it a little bit more. And so I'm drying my brushes I just cleaned out. as much as possible. And I'm gonna start here in the white, but I wanna add a little bit more white here and blend there. Yikes. All right, I'm taking another brush, doing the same thing. 1 second. And so actually I don't have a lot of time for the class, but really I would blow dry this dry and then start to add like a border of black, but the black is going to be silhouettes of like seaweed and different seagrass. All right, so I'm taking my brush, one of the dry brushes, and using the little brown that dripped off the side to come back. And I just want to get a little bit of this dark brown for the bottom. Just going back to smooth it through a little. All right. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. Just want to go right back and smooth this top edge of where my sand is here. All right. And so the last thing I want to do is add white right there, just to add a little bit more light. That's pretty much it for my abstract background of the ocean underwater.
That's beautiful, Kimmy.
Thank you, love. And so, although I have to clean up these brushes, this is how it looks. And it's gonna even look better once we actually get the, it's gonna look better once we actually get the actual subject on there, which will be the seahorses, and the tube worms. And so hopefully you see that it's supposed to be looking like water is shining down in the light is shining down in the water and it gets a little deeper. However, one thing that I can add, let me go ahead and show you, is a few rays coming from the light. How about we add a few rays coming from the light? So what I'm going to do is try out this fan brush. I think the fan brush will work really well. I was actually gonna use a fan tool, but I know it's gonna scrape the paint from the canvas, so I don't want to do that. So give me 1 second. I have this fan brush. And what I'm going to do is add a layer of white paint to it. And just make some long streaky lines coming out. You always have to go back into that white paint because it's getting mixed with the white on the canvas. So I'm just dulling the paint on the brush because I want it to be really light, so to speak. All right, I think I'm pretty satisfied with that right there. I'm just gonna let that dry for when I'm ready to add my seahorses. So right now I'm just cleaning up and I have the whole canvas painted around the edges, which is good. You can always change the piece if you need to when you are working. Actually, because I said I was going to paint the pieces with acrylic, so you can always change anything you need to at that time. All right, young people, forgive me. Thought that was a little bit, I would rather do it when it gets dry, but however, I am still happy with what I have now. All right, so I hope you are inspired, and you can, even though I did this particular piece in like a U shape or V shape, the smile shape to show that it's getting deeper, so to speak, you can always make your brush strokes go into like a wave so that it can flow like water. You know, you don't have to go in this shape, so to speak. Yeah, the water moves all sorts of ways. So if your brush tends to move other ways, that'll be fine as well. All right. Anybody have any suggestions or questions? Comments? Anybody?
You put the rays in there and then you took them out.
Yeah, I said I wasn't too pleased with them because I said I wanted to wait until this background dries, and then I'm gonna put the rays back. Yeah, it was a few of them a little bit thick for me. So I'm gonna wait till that completely dries and then to add the rays back in.
I missed the class last week and I'm not, what are you calling this project?
Oh, this is a three-dimensional, we're doing three-dimensional pieces of clay that will, you know how we usually, you made a giraffe where it was three-dimensional, but it was all clay. But we're making these raised pieces that will go on canvas so that it can be a three-dimensional. It's like really just applying clay with canvas to make it look more authentic, like a painting, rather than using glaze to make it look glass-like. So
can you use cardboard instead of canvas?
The only thing is you have to be mindful of the cardboard can last if you some kind of way frame it. You know, it doesn't have to have a glass, but just to make sure it's protected, because cardboard bends, it moves over time, and it's going to have something hard and solid on it. You just want to make sure that it's able to hold it. Because I was telling everybody, this particular canvas that I use is a stretch canvas over the frame. And, you know, since it's hollow, that piece might make it stretch over time. So I really plan on using the canvas that's over the board. But cardboard might really be good, but you just have to be mindful too that I would prime the cardboard first, like with a white gesso or some type of white paint first to give it a layer, because when you start painting the cardboard tends to absorb the paint. You know, the colors might look kind of like a little blanched out. But if you prime it first before you paint it, it should work. I think that could be a good material.
And what is the other canvas called? Not the stretch?
It's canvas that's over board. You know, it's the kind that's just over the board.
Like the back is it's like a board. It's just a piece of canvas.
It's a stretched canvas over a frame. Then you have the canvas that's over a board. That's already flat and sturdy, so that's what I'm going to use. Although I didn't have it today, I'm gonna use it next time. I'm just using what I have today.
One other question. I might be jumping the gun, but
hold on one second. And so for the class last week, if you want to look at it on YouTube, it's going to be called three-dimensional clay with canvas or something like that. Go ahead.
Have you told us how you're gonna what kind of adhesive you're gonna use to apply the three-dimensional to the board?
Actually, I did say if you are using air dry clay where you won't have to go through so many processes, you can use Elmer's glue to glue air dry clay down. But however, I probably will use a small amount of E6000.
A small amount. Okay.
Meaning like it's not going to be so thick. Because that if I use like a lot of that glue, it may eat through the canvas. So I'm just going to use small amounts, just smaller. It only takes small amounts to glue it to the piece anyhow. But I possibly could use Elmer's glue, but I definitely won't use nothing like super glue. It's too strong. It'll eat through the canvas.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions, suggestions, anything to say?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
I've noticed that sometimes when my pieces are done, the ends has turned up.
So as you can see with this piece right here, even though it's on the board, the little bit of time, these thin pieces have turned up. And if you
Uh-huh.
letting something dry, Miss Gloria, what I would do is try to sit something on them, like some kind of weights that are light enough that they won't put a impression in your clay, but heavy enough to keep them down.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sometimes I use like jars or little rocks, or even the posts that hold hold the shells up in the kiln. But I just try to make sure when I first sit it down, just wait a couple of seconds and lift it back up to see if I see an impression. If I see an impression, to me, that means it's too heavy.
Okay,
So if you use a book, Kim,
A book
something
is
that's
fine
bigger
too.
than the piece, that way it, it covers the whole thing and you won't have any impressions.
Yep, a book is fine too, especially if the piece is flat. So if you use a book on it, that's really, really great. And once it pretty much dries and you take the weight off of it, whatever you're using, it should remain flat. But
okay,
it's going to move somewhat, especially on the edges, because the clay is shrinking and as it's drying, because it's losing air and moisture. So it's moving as it's shrinking and drying.
okay. Thank you much.
No problem.
I just wanted to add that using that open board, you still have to put it in a frame because over time those edges do turn up. The board curves.
What
I have
board?
the open board you was talking about that we could use.
What open board?
Is there the stretch canvas, the open canvas, or open board?
Just say it's canvas board. Yeah. What
Canvas
about
board?
the
Okay.
canvas board starts to.
Now I wanted to share. I just wanted to share that I had a painting made and never put it in a frame, and it just curled up on the ends. So my suggestion would be to.
They were not talking about the canvas curving up. They were talking about the clay itself.
I'm not talking about what they're talking about. I'm talking about the board. I'm talking about the canvas board.
Okay, the board does curl and curve up on the ends because, like, in the inside of that, it's only pressed, like pressed cardboard or some type of pressed materials like that. However, what probably happened to that piece is some kind of moisture got to it, meaning like, it's not saying that it actually got wet, but sometimes there's moisture in the air. And over time, if something isn't treated properly, it does warp and curve and stuff like that. Because that's why.
Well, as a result, I was just making the suggestion that if anyone uses that board,
oh yes, ma'am.
Put it in a frame.
And over time, that's why we have curators in museums. You think that stuff probably just sitting there and looking at good over years or over time, but actually people are doing certain things to what we call curating it or taking care of it to make sure that it doesn't start to dull like yellow on like white paintings or actually get dust on them, or sometimes there's treated, they have to have a certain temperature, the rooms that they're in, to keep their originality. Like sometimes when you see certain writings or papers, they have them in vaults and with different temperatures so that the ink in different things don't get old and evaporate or dry up, or certain, just all sorts of things. All right, any other questions?
All of those things must have happened to my portrait because.
Yeah, it's the same thing like with clothes in your closet. Over time, you'll wonder how stains or certain things get on them. And, like sometimes you have moths and little bugs that eat holes in your clothes. And like, you can have something brand new and be like, how did this stain, this yellow, and get on it just from sitting in the closet? Like, so we have so many things moving in the air and moisture. And it's just a certain way you have to take care of stuff. And depending on how your humidity or moisture is in your house, some people's homes can't even take leather, like trying to keep leather clothes and leather, it just like frails away. So It's just a
Okay.
whole science to it, but if you have something precious like that that is raveling away or getting messed up, you can take it to certain people to have it treated and treated properly so that it can last.
Well, you'll help me with that. Thank
All
you.
right, no problem. All right, so I only have 5 minutes to go before I can get up here and serve lunch. Y'all know I'm helping serve lunch. And I love you all. Thank you so much. You will see this class on YouTube next week along with the other ones. And I hope you all join in with this 3-dimensional canvas art, clay canvas art. My name is Kimberlie Wright. Thanks so much for joining Hand Built Pottery. Have a great weekend.
You too, Kim. Thank you.
And I would like to say that if any of you take Kermit Ashford's class over at the HJC Bowden Center, Kermit's birthday is tomorrow. Have a great day.
Oh,
Thank you so
Kim,
much.
Yes, ma'am.
did your mom have his class this morning?
I think you having it now.
Oh, okay.
You can probably get out my class and go on here.
Okay. Thank you.
Orlando.
Hey, baby.
Hey.